welcome to Pivot to Play. Last week, we had some great information shared from Q, who shared some training tips. Pete, who's on the call again today, shared some ideas for your highlight video and even offered to help you edit your video. So we included Pete's email in the meeting summary that we sent out from last week. So feel free to reach out to Pete if you need any assistance. And Hector will then tweet those videos. Hector has been interacting with you all, and he does our Scout Smart Twitter account. And he provided some good tips on how to stand out on Twitter with college coaches. Also last week, Danielle from Brand Armor talked about your online presence and how important it is to make sure you don't have any red flags for coaches when they're looking at your Twitter or anything that you might have that's online. So today we're going to be talking about how important it is to be strong in the classroom and on the field. So Haley will kick us off, and she's going to talk about some academic resources that you can use, because if you're not NCAA eligible, your athletic ability really doesn't matter. So we've got to make sure we've got you eligible. And then Clint, who did the evals, is going to talk to you about your eval, answer any questions, and talk in general what it means to play at the next level. And I mentioned to Clint too, guys, I want you to feel comfortable asking Clint questions. Even though we're recording this, we do not have to include that portion of it. If you guys want to have some kind of one-on-one dialogue, we can always edit that out to share with the broader audience. So, all right, let's get started. Haley is up first, and she is going to, Haley is the academic advisor at Collins Hill High School here in Georgia, and she's going to share some great academic resources that she has.
Hi guys. So I first want to say thank you for having me, and thank you for trusting me with your academics. So this is my first year as the academic coach at Collins Hill High School. So I'm kind of learning as I go, but what I've picked up is a bunch of great tips and tricks and resources for you in the classroom, as well as I got a lot of good stuff for you as far as NCAA eligibility timelines and where you need to be based on what grade you're in. So I'm going to share my screen and show you guys a little presentation. It's not long, I promise. So this presentation has live links in it, and after I present today, I'll send it to Ms. Bloodworth, and she can send it out to you, and the links you can use to click through and just, it has different things based on if you're in 9th, 10th, or 12th grade, so you'll be able to see all of it today, but you'll also be able to look at the specific stuff for your age level. So I want to first talk about your NCAA requirements. Right now, because of COVID-19, the SAT and ACT scores are not required for school admission, and that's until further notice. So anytime I mention SAT or ACT scores, I'm going to say for right now. I had a lot of parents ask if I recommend that their students take it, and I do, just because you never know if a school's going to come back in May and say, oh, you need to take it. So I'm asking my players to take it in the fall right now. All student athletes that want to play Division I or Division II ball, they need to register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. And I'm going to show you that timeline on the next slide. But again, these yellow things are live links. So when I send out this presentation, you'll be able to click through it on your own. The academic requirements and the test scores all have to be met. And on the next slide, I'm also going to talk about your minimum GPA, but it depends on your core GPA. And I'll go through all of that. So here is a screenshot of the timeline. If you click the link on the previous slide, it will show you a lot of different things, but this is the main thing. So 9th grade, you're just starting to plan. You're not really doing a whole lot yet, but you're just kind of making sure your grades are in line and that you're passing all of those classes. And what I've been telling my players is passing is not what I want. I mean, it's great just to pass, but we want A's and B's. We really want A's and B's. So that's what we've been aiming for with making realistic goals, especially as a 9th grader. If you can establish that early on, then you are going to be great for future. In 10th grade, you're still talking to your counselors and you're making sure you're taking the approved courses. So you just don't want to be taking like art, and we have a class at our school called Food for Life, and it counts as a science elective, but it's not a science elective for NCAA. So I have to make sure all of my players have the right electives according to the NCAA outlines and what they'll accept. And then 11th grade, this is where we really want to start talking about our ACT and SAT scores. And we want to make sure that all of our courses are eligible, because you're about to start applying to colleges, and colleges are really going to get serious about looking at you then. And then 12th grade, you are getting ready for graduation. You have to make sure you've passed all of those courses, and you have registered with the eligibility center because after you graduate, when your transcript is uploaded, it's going to be tagged on your account for the NCAA account. And down here at the bottom, it says 4x4 is 16. So it's going to talk about your core classes, and that's how you calculate your core GPA. And I'm going to get to that in a second. So I'm not ignoring that, but I just wanted to go through the 4 grade levels where your mindset should be first. So if we still talk about these, the core classes that I keep saying are your language arts or your English classes, your math, your science, your social studies, and in most cases, foreign language. I know for us to graduate, you have to have a minimum of 2 foreign language classes, but colleges really want to see more. So if you're one of my athletes taking a Spanish class and you're in Spanish 2, we're going to push you to take Spanish 3. And especially me, because I teach Spanish. So take all of the Spanish classes. I love it. But the higher the grades, the better, because when we talk about your core GPA, you're going to see that the NCAA, when they calculate your core GPA, they take the highest 16 classes. And this list, this link is going to show you all of the NCAA approved courses, and you'll be able to look at your specific school and see which courses are approved based on your school's list. When you register, we're going to shift gears a little bit. When you register for the eligibility center, you can't make official visits to colleges until you do this. So it's one of the most important things to do. You can't even sign a national letter of intent with a D1 or D2 school before you do this. So you have to be registered, and you wouldn't be able to sign an intent unless you make the official visit. So all of it goes together. To have a certified account, it is $90, but once you have that account done, you are good to go. Schools can contact you, you can make that official visit, and you can sign all of your letters afterwards. A profile page is free for D3 and schools, or if you're unsure, so you don't have to make that certified account yet, but if you're going to, you're going to start making those visits, definitely go ahead and create your certified account and pay the $90. The link to the website is right there. And again, I'm going to send this out. We recommend at my school that you do this before the end of your junior year. It's not too late if you have not done it already, but it's just a good idea to do that beforehand so that schools can start looking at all of your grades and you don't really have to backtrack on classes. And this is what you'll see when you go to the website. It's going to tell you how to make the account. It's going to tell you all of the steps that they recommend when you begin your account. And the biggest thing that I've told my players is this valid student email, because every single day since we're doing digital learning, they're like, oh, I don't check my email. I don't look at that. You need to have a valid student email, and you need to really be checking it, because not only are teachers emailing you because of digital learning and we're doing everything so differently, but schools can email you there too. And if you're not going to respond within a couple days, they're like, well, okay, this kid's not even paying attention. So make sure you have a valid school and email and that you're paying attention to it. And that's the biggest thing I've hit with my players this year. Okay, so this is the big thing that everyone wants to know, calculating your core GPA. So most of all of our students know an A is 4 points, B is 3, C is 2, D is 1, and then you get nothing for Fs. When you calculate your core GPA, you get your total points, however many points you got that semester, and you divide it by 16, as long as those are the NCAA approved courses. So if they are those NCAA approved courses, which your list was on a couple slides before, then they're going to be the ones you divide by 16. The minimum core GPA to play at a Division I school is a 2.3. And that's the minimum. Of course, schools want to see you getting more, but that's the minimum to play at a Division I school. And then to play at a Division II school is a 2.2. What this link, and I'm about to show you a picture of, what this link is the GPA calculator. And so what I've been playing around a lot with my players is this calculator. I can put in all of their final scores for the year. So say I'm my freshman year, I really just did not care, and I was like, whatever. And I got 70s in all of my classes. That's a D. So I got 1 point for each of those classes. So I'm probably sitting at a 1.0 if I'm at the beginning of my sophomore year. What's nice about this calculator is it'll do it for you no matter what you put in, and you can play with what scores you think you're going to get this year. So if you're sitting in your sophomore year and you're doing really well in math, you have a 95 right now, you can put that in and say, okay, if the semester ended right now, what would my GPA be with all of the classes that I have right now? And you'll see what the NCAA is looking at when they are calculating your core GPA. And it has all of the different courses out to the side. So you have English, math, science, and then extras, like I was talking about, that science elective beforehand. If you take another elective, put that in there. But they will take your top 16 to calculate your core GPA. And I'm going to send a link to you guys with your own Excel spreadsheet so you can play with your own classes. And you'll be able to keep that in your Google Drive and just play with it until forever, so you can see kind of where you need to be. And this has been the most helpful with my players because digital learning has been so hard. I'm not even going to lie to you guys. Some of my players have just really struggled because it's hard to get motivated not in the classroom. And it's hard to stare at a computer for 8 hours a day. I know, because teaching on a computer is real hard. So we've kind of got to kick it in the high gear. And this GPA calculator has been great for them because I'm like, well, you know, a 14 in a class isn't going to cut it. So we got to figure it out. And this has really been like an eye opener. So I really suggest using this and putting it to good use on your own time. And then one last thing I wanted to show you guys, this has also been really big and helpful, and I sent it out to all of my parents. The core classes are usually the hardest. Let's be honest. Spanish is fun. You play lots of games, so we make it easier. Language arts, no one wants to be told what to read all the time, so it's hard. So I talked to a lot of the teachers at my school and got great resources to practice with all of these classes to help with those grades. And all of these resources are free for anybody to use. USA Test Prep, our history classes at our school actually assign stuff from the USA Test Prep because it's so good for the history classes. IXL.com is also free, and it's for math and language arts. Read Theory does a lot of reading comprehension practice, and that's great if you're prepping for an EOC and if you're prepping for the SAT. And then this last one, Khan Academy, is awesome because it has practice SAT and ACT tests. And then you could also go in and find stuff for specific classes. This is the one that my players use the most because a lot of them are in geometry right now. I have a lot of 10th graders that come see me. And on Khan Academy, there are practice videos where people explain how to do the different formulas and anything you're doing in class. And then they also have practice problems where they'll work them out and then you can get the answers with them. And so it's really been helpful for them. And again, all of this is free, and it's just a great resource to keep practicing if you are just struggling in your classes. And I can't reiterate it enough how important your academics are, especially for our players that aren't getting to play. If games are getting canceled, if your whole season has been canceled, all coaches really have to look at is your highlight from the past and your grades. So it's the best thing to do is focus on your grades right now when we're struggling with digital learning and we're struggling to play ball really right now. If you guys do have questions for me, other academics, please let me know. I'm happy to answer anything. This is like my thing. I love it. So you guys let me know in any way I can help, and I'll send out all of those links in my presentation after our meeting today.
That's great, Haley. Thank you so much. I know we get a lot of questions, especially around that core GPA, and coaches tell us that that's what they've got to get to. You know, they've got to see that. So we really appreciate those resources. Whoops. I don't think there were any questions. I know Zach, one of the guys that's on here, has like a 4.0, so he's probably in pretty good shape. But yeah, lucky, smart guy. But if there's any questions, feel free to ask, guys. All right. Well, Haley, thank you so much. And Hector and I'll make sure that these resources, that we send these out to all the participants. Thank you
so much,
Bye.
guys.
I know you have to run for another commitment, so thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Haley.
All right. So now we're going to talk more about on the field performance. And Clint, who works for 24/7 Sports and who is our scout at Scout Smart, is going to talk about, Zach, you can ask him any questions about your eval, and or Clint, kind of talk a little bit about what it takes to, what you look for when you're looking at recruits to be able to play at the next level?
Yeah, sure. I've been doing this for about 8 years now. Been doing the rankings for 24/7 Sports, and also doing a lot of recruiting for them, and covering high school and college recruiting. And my dad was a college coach and NFL coach, so I've been around the game quite some time. And in a broad sense, I think that evaluating high school players, it's the same at each level. If you want to talk about the broad sense of it, it's really length, quickness, and athleticism, I think, are the three main things that we really look at, in a broad sense. Obviously it's not the same for each position, and the quarterback position is unique to that. But I think the best advice that I ever gotten from especially from an NFL player was, focus on something that you're great at each position. You have to find out what you're great at, as a player. Is it your strength? Is it your speed, your quickness, your skill, your craft? How crafty you are. I think that's the biggest thing is focusing on what you're good at, and then accentuating that area, so you really stand apart from the next player. And your production is huge at the high school level. Everybody wants to see production as far as stats, and they want to see you make it look easy. At the high school level, they want to see you dominate. They want to see toughness. Obviously football is a violent game, and I think that's the next biggest thing, other than length, quickness, and athleticism. And then your football IQ. How smart are you? Playing each position. Can you play offense? Can you play defense? Can you play special teams? Your effort. There's a lot of things in the broad sense of it, but I think that the best advice I can give you is really to focus on something that you're great at, at each position, and really accentuate that area so you can really stand out. So yeah.
No, I think that's great advice. And Clint, I'm assuming, there's not everything's going to show up in video, right? Which is going to be your primary means of seeing a recruit. I know we had a couple of weeks ago a lot of discussion around character and leadership and those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
The coach is looking for that too. But first, you've got to have those athletic qualities for them to dig a little deeper and make sure those other qualities are there as well.
Yeah, and I can dig into, what we look for at the positions of the players that we have on here. We have Zach and Brian. Are they on?
Yes, Zach is on. I haven't seen Brian yet.
Okay. Yeah, now I pulled up Zach's, his profile, and I see that he does a lot of good things on film, as far as his quickness off the ball at defensive end. He's built more in the linebacker range at 6'2", 190.
Sure.
Yeah. But I think that he really can convert speed to power from his defensive end spot, and his toughness and strength really stand out. I think that the biggest thing with Zach is, how is his body going to develop really, to the position that he plays at the next level. Because obviously I think that he's playing a little out of position at the high school level, but he shows some dominance and some ball get off from the the defensive end position. And, I think that, his quick twitch and, his strength and toughness and his lateral agility kind of needs some work, I think. But yeah, he does a lot of good things, I think, on film. I see, for sure.
Thank you.
Yeah. And if there's any questions at all, I'd love to, talk to you more about your game, off camera, off of Zoom. You can always get my contact information, and yeah, I'd love to talk to you more about your game, for sure.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Hey, Zach, did you ever consider the linebacker position? Was that ever an option, or did they just need you more as a defensive end?
Oh yeah, I mean I was linebacker. Then we admit that we don't have like a lot of big, not even just big. We just don't have a lot of linemen in general, so they moved me down. But I wrote all the stuff to work on from the review. I wrote it down. It's right there.
Yeah.
So we're gonna put it on the wall to wake up to it.
Yeah, definitely. Do you know what your stats were from this past year?
Like tackles and everything.
Yeah, tackles, sacks.
I think it was 43
Okay.
total, something like that.
Yeah.
It was at the. Wait, how were you able to see that? Because we had that on Huddle, but then you had it on the thing too.
I know on Max Preps that they usually post them, and some newspapers post them. You can find them online, but like you said, sometimes they're not available. Either they're inaccurate. So yeah.
Yeah, and if you can get them, Zach, and we'll make sure they're updated in your profile correctly. We'd love to send out your Scout Smart profile to some coaches where you might be a fit. And so we want to make sure we have all the latest data on you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And Zach has a great attitude. You're willing to improve. You're willing to work on your game. I love that.
Yeah, absolutely. Great.
Anything else, Clint, that you would want to share just in general for these guys? We've got a whole range of offensive and defensive positions of the 20 so participants.
Yeah, I think a huge thing, now is that the game is being played so much in space that, if you can really work on breaking down and playing in space, covering the pass, there's so many teams that pass the ball so much now. If you can really work on, your lateral movement and covering in space and, reading the ball, reading the quarterback. I think that's just really huge now for the defensive positions, because the game is being played more and more like, basketball on grass. And, I think that your lateral agility, your quickness, your hip flexibility, if you can really, get better in those areas, and I think that'll help you out a lot, especially at linebacker. How good you can run sideline to sideline, I think is huge. Your back pedal, just your explosive, your ability to read and react, and really know what's coming at you. Can you sniff out a screen before the other players? Can you, sniff out various plays quicker than the other guys? I think that's, the biggest thing from the linebacker position. And so.
No, that's great. Anything, our offensive guys couldn't be on the call today, but for those guys that are going to listen to this recording, Anything for the offense? And I know the quarterback position's unique, but you know, wide receivers, running back. What would you say to those guys?
You know, at offense, I think it's just really perfecting your craft. You know, you know, it kind of goes back to what I was saying before. You know, what you do best at, I think, is the thing that you should really try to accentuate. You know, is it getting in and out of breaks at wide receiver, so you can focus on your route running, or just focus on the, you know, the little things. You know, if you're a quarterback, really, you know, can you be multidimensional now at quarterback? Can you make plays with your feet as well as your arm? You know, I think it's just being versatile and being able to play multiple positions, you know, being open to that, because, you know, who really knows at this age how your body's going to develop, you know, for what position you project at the next level. So I think that's really huge. And yeah, so I can't stress really enough, you know, that quickness is the biggest thing, you know, that we look at. Because, you know, if you're a running back, your short area quickness is probably the biggest thing that can set you apart. You know, your lateral quickness and agility, and that goes along with receiver too, with getting yards after the catch. You know, and you know, it all goes back to toughness too. You know, how tough you are. You know, are you willing to do the dirty work? Can you, you know, can you get yards after the catch? Can you know, get yards after contact at running back? You know, there's I can go on all day, but yeah, I think that those are a couple of things on offense we look for. Versatility, huge thing.
No, that's great. And any recommendations, you know, right now, especially for these guys that aren't playing because of the pandemic, any recommendations for them in general?
Yeah, I think it's just, you know, if you're not playing, it's just being as visible as you can on social media. You know, if you have really good testing numbers, I think you can go out there and put together your own combine. You know, you can go out to the field and have your buddy time you in the 40 and put that on Twitter. I think it's DMing as many coaches as you can on Twitter, and just really staying in their ear. And you know, just like I said, putting as much stuff as you can out on social media, because every coach is on social media. You know, and if you really want to take it the next step, you can write a letter to coaches, write a handwritten letter, and that goes really far. You know, I think is getting a handwritten letter from a coach, and you know, and like if you have a great squat, you know, if you have a great power clean, I think you can put out a video of that and put it, you know, on Twitter. Just anything to get coaches' attention. You know, I think that is great. And you know, like I said, there's a lot of kids that are doing their own combines, their own testing, and putting that on social media. So I think that you know, there's a lot you can do right now still if you're not playing. Yeah.
No, that's great. And just as a reminder, you know, Pete has offered to help with edit your videos. And we'll send his email out again. And Hector will tweet your videos on Scout Smart, on our Scout Smart Twitter account. So any questions for Clint from anyone? Doesn't have to be Zach, any of our guys that are on the call, our football guys that would like to ask Clint a question. This is your opportunity. Feel free. All right. Well, that's great. Well, next week, you know, Clint was talking about, you know, that outreach to the coaches. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that, some recruiting tips for outreach to the coaches. what it would be like to be on a Zoom call with a coach and what you really need to be aware of. And also a little bit about the media. So next week, Coach Krager, who has coached both at the high school Division II level and has done a lot of recruiting, is going to help us talk about those Zoom calls. And Jeff Fisher, who is the co-founder and editor of High School Football America, is going to provide recruiting tips and also talk about what if you were to get a media interview and what that would look like. I think most folks are unprepared for that. So Jeff will have some great tips for both recruiting and the media next week. So any other questions or comments before we end today? A little bit early, but a lot of great information today. Clint, thank you so much. And Haley provided some great academic resources.
Would you be able to go over again, like your definition again of lateral movement?
Yeah, I think with your lateral movement, you want to talk about, your fluency in the hips, how fluid you are when you get your hips down and move side to side, laterally. I think that's, one of the huge things at the linebacker position, because obviously you're squatting down, you're in your stance and you want to be really comfortable in that, you want to be able to flip your hips and get into coverage if you need to be, or go downhill and fill a gap, if you're at linebacker, if you're at defensive end like you're at, can you kind of bend your hips and get around blockers and get around the offensive tackle, really work on your flexibility, in the hips and I think that is key for linebackers and defensive ends, if you can really accentuate that. For sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I see our former Nebraska linebacker shaking his head, yes. Carp played linebacker at Nebraska a few years ago, so Carp's agreeing with you.
Yeah. I'm sure he can tell you more about playing linebacker position, if he's got anything to touch on what I was saying, I'm sure that he knows more than me about linebacker play. So, he can help you out too, definitely.
Yeah, Zach could always, you can always reach out to me too, or Diane can, put my email on there. Be more than happy to talk to you anytime.
Thank you.
Right, Zach, you got all the attention today, man. You wouldn't get all these resources anywhere else, so I'm glad you're taking advantage of it.
Thank you for everything.
Any other questions or anything before we end today?
That's it.
Awesome. Y'all have a great weekend. We'll talk next Friday.